Okay, Ink, now you're in real trouble.
Now Scribbles has something to prove. He grips his pencil, and... of course, Ink has to get even. Scribbles is spooked. The battle of the brush and the pencil begins.
Hiss, meow,
Ah, squeak! Scribbles and Ink find themselves in the middle of
growl.
one big
Yuck!
mess.
Double yuck.
Ink, this is not good. We are much better artists than this.
We sure are, Scribbles. We should try to get along. Ink paints Scribbles.
Hey, nice composition.
Thanks. Scribbles draws Ink. I love your use of line. What do you think of working together on something?
Interesting idea.
Scribbles and Ink, portrait of a friendship.
Hey, Ink, for the worst artists ever, we sure make some cool art.
We sure do, Scribbles.
National Geographic Readers, George Washington, by Carolyn Crossan Gilpin. Who was George Washington? George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was a farmer, a soldier, and a hero. He helped America become a free country. Words to know. Portrait, a picture or painting of a person. Growing up. George was born on February 22nd, 1732, on a farm in Virginia to a large family. He spent much of his time with his older brother, Lawrence. Lawrence lived on a plantation, plantation, called Mount Vernon. He was an army officer. George wanted to be just like him. That's a fact. George Washington owned more than 30 foxhounds during his lifetime. Words to know. Plantation, a large farm that grows plants for food and clothing. George Washington grew Mount Vernon into a large plantation. It had 8,000 acres of land. Lawrence Washington was 14 years older than his brother George. Teaching himself. When George was 11, his father died. He had to stop going to school to help at home. But George read a lot and taught himself. When he was 17, he got a job measuring land to make maps. Measuring land was called surveying. Surveying. It was an important job, and George did it well. George was brave and strong. He was very good at riding horses. This helped him become a great soldier a few years later. When George was just 23 years old, he was asked to lead the Virginia soldiers. This is a portrait of him in uniform. Becoming a leader. In the 1700s, America was not yet the United States of America. It began as just 13 colonies, colonies, ruled by King George III in England. People came on ships to live in America. They wanted more freedom than the king would give them in England. King George III ruled England for 59 years. England is part of Great Britain. Wales and Scotland are also part of Great Britain. Words to know. Colonies. What America's first 13 states were called before America became independent from Britain. In his time, many things were very different in the 1700s. Home. Many colonists, colonists, lived on farms and built most of their own houses and furniture. They used homemade candles to light their rooms. Food. Most people grew their own vegetables, such as squash and peas. They hunted animals, such as deer and rabbits, for meat. Staying in touch. There were no telephones. People used feather pens and ink to write long letters. The letters took weeks to reach the other person. Chores and school. Children helped with farm chores. Most children did not go to school. They learned to read and write at home. Mount Vernon. Sadly, when George was 20, his brother Lawrence died. Later, George became the owner of Mount Vernon. In 1759, George married Martha Custis. They were happy together at Mount Vernon. Martha Custis and George Washington married 10 months after they met. That's a fact. George Washington did not have a middle name. The making of a hero. In the 1760s, there was trouble coming. King George III made the colonists pay extra money for tea and other supplies they needed. The colonists didn't think it was fair. They were angry. This picture shows an event called the Boston Tea Party. To show they were unhappy with King George III, the colonists dressed up as American Indians. They threw British tea into the Boston Harbor. They wanted freedom from England. They asked George Washington to lead the American army against the British army. George Washington was a great leader. He was smart and brave. He strongly believed in American freedom. War and peace. The Revolutionary, War started in 1775. The British thought they would win. They had more men and supplies. American soldiers didn't have enough food or warmth, but they would do almost anything for freedom. In their own words, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From the Declaration of Independence. In 1776, America's leaders signed the Declaration of Independence. Declaration of Independence. It said America had a right to be free and to make its own rules. The British didn't agree. They sent more troops to fight. Words to know. Revolutionary War. America's fight for independence from Britain. Declaration of Independence. The statement written in 1776 that said Americans had the right to make their own decisions about their country and its people. For 8 long years, the war went on. The British were tired of fighting a war far from home. The British were beginning to run out of supplies and money. Finally, they gave up in 1783. America had won its freedom. On Christmas Day in 1776, George Washington led his soldiers across the frozen Delaware River. They made a surprise attack on British troops the next morning. George's men won the battle. It gave them hope that they could win the war. 5 cool facts about George. Number 1. He had false teeth made from things like lead and ivory. He did not have good teeth. Number 2. He was born on February 22nd. Today, most Americans celebrate his birthday on the 3rd Monday of that month, called President's Day. Number 3. He liked fox hunting on horseback. One of his favorite horses was named Blueskin. Number 4. He liked cornmeal pancakes, called hoe-cakes, with butter and honey for breakfast. Number 5. He was very tall, almost 6 foot 3 inches. He had size 13 feet. Very first president. How would this new country work? In 1787, men from each state to choose a new leader, George Washington was elected. Elect Ed, the first president of the United States in 1789. It was a big job to unite the new country. Words to know, unite, to bring together. In their own words, George Washington's friend, Henry Lee III, said that Washington was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his country. George Washington became president on April 30th, 1789. He didn't want to be called King Washington or have people bow to him. He chose to be called President. Home again. After 8 years as president, George gave up his power. He was happy to go home to Mount Vernon. He had many visitors. He rode his horses every day. 1732, born February 22nd in Virginia. 1749, takes a job measuring land. 1755, becomes leader of the Virginia Army. 1759, marries Martha Custis. 1775, Revolutionary War begins. In December 1799, George got sick with a bad sore throat. There was no medicine in his time to cure him. He was 67 years old when he died. 1776, Declaration of Independence written. 1783, Revolutionary War ends. 1787, U.S. Constitution written. 1789, elected first U.S. President. 1799, dies December 14th. In his honor, George Washington was greatly loved. He is the only president to have a state named after him. His face is on the dollar bill, the quarter, and a U.S. postage stamp. Washington, D.C., America's capital city, is also named for George. George Washington is one of 4 presidents carved in rock at Mount Rushmore National Memorial in South Dakota. At 555 feet, the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. is the world's tallest stone structure. That's a fact. George Washington was the only president who did not live in the White House. What in the world? Here are close-up pictures from George Washington's time. Use the hints below to figure out what's in each picture. The answers are on page 31. Number 1. Hint. The main way George Washington traveled.
National Geographic Readers. Barack Obama by Caroline Crossan Gilpin. Meet Barack Obama. It was cold on January 20th, 2009. Barack Hussein Obama stood in front of the waiting crowd. He raised his hand and swore to protect the country. The crowd cheered for America's first African-American president. In his own words, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, here in America, you can make it if you try. A Hawaiian beginning. Barack Obama was born in 1961 in Hawaii, USA. His mother was from Kansas, USA. His father was from Kenya, Africa. They met as college students at the University of Hawaii. That's a fact. His favorite children's book is Where the Wild Things Are. Obama never really
knew his father. When he was just 2 years old, his father moved away. When Obama was 6, his mother remarried and had another child. The family moved across the Pacific Ocean to Indonesia. Obama spent lots of time with his stepfather. He taught Obama to box. Barack Obama, with his mother and half-sister Maya and his Indonesian stepfather Lolo Sotoro. Childhood. After 4 years, his mother wanted a better education for her children. She sent Obama back to Hawaii to stay with his grandparents. There, he attended the Punahou School. Obama played on the basketball team and did well in his classes. Hawaii had many multiracial families, but few African Americans. Obama was one of only 3 black students at his school. He started to notice racism there. Words to know: multiracial, having parents of more than one race. Racism, the belief that certain races are superior to others. Obama felt different from other students and wished his father was there to teach him about his African family. When Obama was 10, his father came to visit him from Kenya. Obama was excited to spend a whole month with his dad. Obama's father visited Punahou School. He spoke to the class about Kenya. Obama was sad when he left. It was the last time he ever saw his father. Obama's father lived in Nairobi, Kenya. That's a fact. Obama was called Barry before he went to college. Then he began using his full name, Barack. Obama's cool firsts. You already know Barack Obama is the first community and college. Obama lived in New York, law school, and politics. In 1982, Obama's father died. Obama traveled to Kenya and met all his African relatives. That's a fact. Now, Obama rode to the presidency. In 2004, Barack Obama was asked to give the main speech at the Democrat. How could Obama win? He was just 8, the nation's leader. In his first term as president, Obama worked hard to meet his goals, but the problems Americans face are very hard to fix. After 4 years, Obama be a quiz.
National Geographic Readers. Thomas Edison by Barbara Kramer. A great inventor. Have you ever watched a movie? Or early learning? Thomas was born in Milan, Ohio on February 11, 1847. When he was 7, his family moved to Port Huron, Michigan. went to school only in winter. They worked on farms, or in mines, or factories. The rest of the
Mommy,
time,
can I wait
many
for
of them
60? Can I wait for 1655? Can
transportation,
I wait for 1655?
people
And then
traveled
when
by
it's
horse
over,
and wagon, or steamboat. The railroad was just becoming popular. Communication. The
you
telegraph
want to ask me
was
when the time is
fastest
up,
way
okay?
to send messages.
Ask me when the time is
Alexander
up.
Graham Bell had not yet invented the telephone. Toys. Boys played leapfrog and marbles. Girls played hopscotch. Indoors, they all enjoyed the snake game. It was a lot like Chutes and Ladders. U.S. events. Thomas was 13 years old when Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. First, inventions. Thomas began work as a telegraph operator when he was 16. He liked to work nights. During the day, he worked on his always working. Thomas was so busy working, he did not have time to think about getting married. Then, in 1871, when he was 24, he met 16-year-old Mary Stilwell. He liked her right away, and they were married a few months later on Christmas Day. In his own words, there is no substitute for hard work. Thomas and Mary had 3 children. Thomas loved his family, but he did not spend much time with them. He was always working. In 1876, he opened a lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey. There, he often worked all day and into the night. When he got tired, he took a nap on a lab table. Thomas naps in his lab. The Wizard. One of Thomas's early inventions. Lights on. Thomas was soon working on his neck. In his own words, genius is 1% inspiration. Changes. In 1884, Mary Edison died. Thomas was sad and lonely. Then, in 1885, he met Mina Miller, and they married a year later. Thomas, always inventing. Thomas went back to work on his phonograph. He had invented it to record people speaking. Now, he began making records so people could listen to music on it. He also invented a great honor. Thomas began experimenting when he was a boy. More than 70 years later, he was still inventing. He worked until a few months before his death on October 18, 1931. He was 84 years old. People across the country were sad. At 10 p.m. on October 21st, 1931, they turned off their lights for 1 minute. It was a way to thank the man who had brought electricity into their homes and changed their lives. Thomas Edison made the world a better, easier place to live. We still use his inventions every day. In his own words, I think work is the world's greatest fun. Be a quiz whiz. See how many Edison questions you can get right. Answers are at the bottom of page 31. Number 1. When Edison was a boy, be a quiz whiz. See how many Edison questions you can get right. Answers are at the bottom of page 31. Number 1. When Edison was a boy, people A. Watched television. B. Talked on the telephone. C. Used candles and oil or gas lamps to light their homes. D.